All my life, I was burdened with a sense of boredom and emptiness. I spent my teenage years searching for activities that would fulfill my thirst for adrenaline. Skydiving, bungee jumping, scuba diving. None of it was satisfying. None of it fed my hunger. My search for adrenaline became an obsession, which soon turned into addiction. I began questioning myself, wondering how long this was going to last, all while tearing my family apart. Every night my mom would sit me down crying, asking what was wrong, and every night I would say the same thing, and she would just cry and sniff her way back to her room with my sister and two brothers following behind her, oblivious to the situation. On my 18th birthday, my mother attempted to do her parental duties and made me a cake. I paid no mind to the cake. All my birthday signified was that I had experienced 18 years of boredom. I hated getting older. I hated having my life being so useless. My mother threw a fit, but at that point I didn't care. My mother and I both knew that our relationship had turned from a loving and caring one to a more tolerant, systematic agreement. A couple months after my birthday, I began using drugs. Sure, getting high was slightly fun at times, but it wasn't enough. I had to take my search for fulfilling activities to new heights. Within a 2-month time span, I had robbed 2 convenience stores, vandalized countless buildings, and broken into numerous houses. It seemed that the police didn't exist whenever I broke into a house or robbed a convenience store. It was as if I was meant to never be caught. Fate wanted me to reach my goal. Within that 2-month time span, I managed to collect a grand total of $6,328. About half of that came from pawning different assortments of jewelry. Initially, I didn't know exactly how to use it until one day I saw a car speeding past me on Young Street, going at least 100 miles per hour. Street racers dump thousands of dollars into the cars, praying for a faster and lighter ride. On an empty street, cars can reach up to 200 miles per hour. But what really interests me, however, were the races on busy streets. There are 2 main reasons why racing on busy streets is more exhilarating than racing on an empty one: higher chances for collision and higher chances for incarceration. Cheating deaths was the most exhilarating thing I had ever experienced. Dodging a car by only a few inches gave this rush that I never felt before. There were rays glaring past my window. I was in a vortex of light, maneuvering through bliss. I soon became infatuated with racing, believing I had finally found a reason to live. I built a routine, raced Monday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I had raced for 3 months and never got pulled over, never lost, and never got into an accident. This all ended when I broke routine. One Monday, I went to the usual spot on Young Street, but there was a bunch of horrible races, so I decided to go to Montgomery Road, where there wasn't any traffic. At the beach spot, I met a guy named Zach. He was the kind of person who never had to do any real work in high school because his looks and jersey number carried him on a pretty pedestal. I will forever remember the name Zach. I will forever be in debt for him, helping me realize what true happiness is. A drive around the street was different than driving on my usual spot. Because it was in a suburban area, there weren't many streetlights. Looking down the pitch-black road was like looking at the gates of hell with the devil's hand service waiting to pull me in. Everything was going smooth. The entire race, Zach and I were side by side, going around 150 miles per hour. A corner was coming up, so I slowed down, but Zach sped up. He was ahead. After the turn, I slammed on the gas, attempted to catch up, and when I was 2 feet behind him, red lights flashed and a screech filled the air. Zach managed to swerve out of the way, but I was lucky enough to hit Desmond. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I ran out of my car toward the body with a sense of urgency. When I arrived, I had the best feeling I had ever experienced. Watching the blood run down the side of his head, slightly grinning when I noticed his leg was broken in 3 different places. As I stood there grinning, he was looking at me and begging for help. As the words slipped past his bloody lips, more blood would begin to pour out. I didn't help. I just stood there looking at him with that same grin on my face. He died with his eyes open, and as I looked into them, I saw his sorrow and pain. I killed this man, and it felt so damn good. I became mesmerized. This man's life was gone because of me. I had taken control. I had been the Grim Reaper to his prize. I had finally found my calling, my way to feed my adrenaline. After that day, I became complete. I wanted to do it again. I needed to do it again. This is what I've been waiting for my entire life. The very first night I went out to intentionally kill was extremely satisfying. I figured bums would be a great place to start because nobody pays attention to bums. They could be screaming for help, but everyone would just believe they were crazy. We live in a society today where most people don't have the slightest care for the people financially beneath them. I walked down Lawrence Street to find any potential candidates, long black trench coat, knife in one hand and camera in the other. As I passed an alley, I saw a man sleeping in a pile of newspaper and cardboard. As I looked around to make sure that we were alone, I walked towards him. When I reached him, he was sleeping directly on his back, looking down. A million different ways to kill him was spinning around my head. After standing over him for almost 5 minutes, I finally came to a conclusion. I simply placed a sharp knife to his throat and cut across. Blood came spewing from his throat like magma from a volcano. The bum squealed, attempting to gasp for air, only to inhale more of his own blood. There wasn't a grin on my face anymore. It had turned into a full-on smile. I loved seeing this man die. I began to laugh uncontrollably. He looked at me with his glossy eyes and let out his final word, "Why?" And I lay dead on his pile of newspaper and cardboard. I pulled out my camera and took a couple pictures. After putting the camera away, I felt the need to answer his question. I got close to his ear and whispered, because it's fun. Once every other night, I would find a bum in the street and slice his throat. Once in a while, I would change it up and simply stab him in the back numerous times. Seeing their blood leak out and the agony on their faces is indescribable. By the time I turned 19, I had evolved. I moved up from bums on the street to low-key communities. Torturing had become my new itch that I loved to scratch. The act of torture is where original happiness comes from. The Colosseum the Roman gladiators used was a torture complex. Gladiators fighting to the death for the crowd's enjoyment. My Colosseum was a victim's home, and it was getting larger. I am not a monster. I don't kill babies or children. I make sure I don't hit a house that has kids younger than 15. There are girls who are getting pregnant at 15 years old. If they're old enough to get pregnant, then they're old enough to die. Breaking in while they were asleep, tying up the entire family with a rope or electrical wires found around the house, the sheer thrill of controlling them was almost as satisfying as killing them. I would first kill the sons and daughters. I wouldn't kill them first because I wanted to finish them quickly. I did them first because the cries of the parents excited me. The brilliant red of their blood reflected in their eyes. Their eyes would match what I saw in Desmond's, sorrow and pain. Sorrow. It overtakes your body, fills you with hatred and weakness. You're willing to take your own life in order to end it. It's a suicidal disease caused by death itself. Watching your own son die cuts up and down his naked body, fingers sawed down to little stumps of clotted blood. The whole ordeal takes a toll on your body. It begins to shut down. Some go into a hysterical state, screaming out nonsense. Others become sick and vomit. The human mind can cause the most remarkable bodily effects if given the right stimulants. Surprisingly, I came to learn that it is usually the father that breaks down first. He cries and sweats as if he were in the Sahara Desert. The mother sometimes just sits there. Maybe she's so out of it that she can't feel a thing. Before I even run my knife against her, she's already dead inside. She doesn't care anymore. Her child, the person she carried in her womb for 9 months, is gone in a matter of minutes. As time went on, the newspapers started to notice a pattern. They dubbed me the insomniac killer because I broke into people's homes around 2 in the morning. A reporter who was tracking me called me a monster and said I belonged in a insane asylum. He nor anyone else realized the pain I had to go through. Not finding what makes you happy is a crime in itself. All I did was what was best for me. Any human deep down would kill his or her own mother if they knew it would be in their own best interest. That is what I have learned, and that is what I've been doing. It's not that my daddy didn't love me enough or that I was teased as a kid. It's just my human nature. I am only following my natural instincts. People who deny that are only denying the very basis of life. I don't care what anyone says. I'm going to continue to be happy. So trust me when I say I am not a monster. Thank you.